First, we're going to follow the story of John, a drug user in the United States who has never before been convicted for any drug-related crimes.
You're under arrest for having more than 5 grams of crack cocaine.
Darn it. John will now join the nearly 500,000 inmates who are in prison for nonviolent drug charges. Over 20% of all people who are in jail were arrested for some form of drug charge. Almost all of these sentences are over a year long, and almost none of them get legitimate treatment while they're in prison for their drug issues.
Under 21 U.S.C. 844A, I hereby sentence you to the mandatory minimum sentence for a first-time offender with less than 5 grams of crack. 5 years in prison.
Only 11% of addicts get legitimate treatment for their addictions while in prison. The rest are simply incarcerated with the hope that their addictions fade away as the time to expire on their sentences. Because of this lack of treatment, John and many other inmates return to drugs shortly after their release from prison.
You're under arrest again for crack.
Oh.
Under 21 U.S.C. 844A, I hereby sentence you to the mandatory minimum sentence for a second-time offender with more than 30 grams of crack. 5 years in prison.
Yay, I am finally free.
Go.
After hearing about John's story, we're going to learn about Jane, who is someone living in a country other than the United States that does not use prison, but rather uses rehabilitation for their drug addicts.
I'm taking you into custody for being a druggie. Alright, I order you to 180 days of rehab with good water, food, and counseling.
Wow, this rehab is awesome. I have access to a book so I can do my learning. I have access to clean water and healthy food that will supply my nutritional needs. I have access to technology and can contact my family and look for job opportunities. And I have a counselor to help me beat addiction. Well, it looks like my 180 days are up. I am now on to a bigger and better world. John's story is very sad, but it's also very common in the United States. Relapse rates and overdose rates right after release from prison are very, very high in the United States because in prison, inmates do not receive the care necessary to deal with their addiction. For example, overdose rates peak in the first few weeks after release. For instance, in prisoners released in Washington State, overdose mortality rates were 12-fold higher than what would be expected in similar demographic groups in the general population.
When the war on drugs was started by Nixon and Reagan in the 80s, it was intended to solve the issues of drug abuse in America. However, while it did increase arrests by 800%, overdose rates and drug uses continued to raise to an all-time high.